Honestly, would it surprise you to hear that the death of the third-party cookie was one of the top topics discussed during the September 2023 edition of the Digiday Publishing Summit? Because it really shouldn't.
We've been talking about cookie deprecation for the last, 3 years now, and for the last, 7 events?
Death of the cookie.
Deprecation of the cookie.
The cookie deprecation conversation.
Cookies.
Cookie deprecation.
Cookies.
If this all feels very deja vu-y to you, me too. And publishers seem to be feeling the same. Not only has Google postponed its cookie deprecation deadline in Chrome multiple times, but it's only just recently started opening up its privacy sandbox cookieless solutions for adoption by ad tech firms. All of this has been keeping publishers in a kind of holding pattern. They continue to prepare for a post-cookie marketplace, but there's only so much preparation they can do as the clock ticks down to next year.
I don't think anybody can be ready yet because so many of the tools are brand new and still being adopted. So as we get into January and through the first half of the year, I think we've got lots of testing to do, and we're on a pretty tight timeline because tests take months to do and months to figure out. I think we'll probably get there, but it's going to be a race.
The death of the cookie continues to be pushed back, but we have our own deadline that we're working on, obviously, and we're also doing a lot of work around, the back end of our site, and then I like to say like a fresh coat of paint on the front end of our site about consumer experiences. So our ability to sort of connect all of your back end work that we've done on first-party data ultimately to membership and sort of consumer product offerings that tie to that. So we're setting our own deadlines for that, regardless of sort of death of the cookie, et cetera.
There's a lot of different sort of strategies and tactics, wait and see, sort of go, and then stop, and sort of like the delay in the rollout of that. I think we're really lucky because of the UK and GDPR and sort of all of that readiness from a privacy standpoint has really allowed us to sort of step back, shore up the ship, and really try to create audience segments, behavioral segments, and really strong first-party data that we feel like can bring them value once cookies are no more.
Like Blair mentioned, during this limbo period, publishers are working to build up their first-party databases to buttress themselves against whatever impact the third-party cookie's demise will have on their businesses. It's kind of like stocking up on sandbags and water ahead of a storm, which is not a great analogy, but seems apt.
It's a really good opportunity for publishers to take advantage of the situation if they have a registration law or a subscription capability where they're capturing deterministic data. That data, which was kind of handed off to a lot of ad tech companies earlier on in the beginning of the ad tech, MarTech boom, is now something that's very precious. And I think it's important for a publisher to take a beat and say, hey, do I really want to just give my data to this ad tech company? And instead think about, hey, how can I monetize this for myself and support my advertisers and bring them back into the, into our environment and not just working through an ad tech or mediator where that data is being handed off.
I think everyone is racing towards their first party data. As you kind of, you look at that challenge board back there, you see that. I think it's going to get to a point where there's just too much first party data. Like you see it in the, nothing against it, you see in the retail space, like, I forget who just announced it. It was like Dollar General or somebody like, oh yeah, we have our first party data, shopper data now. I'm like, cool. So if I'm an advertiser, which one do I go to? And so I think that's going to get to a point where it just there's so much first party data.
Which is a hell of a thing to think about. But there are so many other big things to be thinking about too, like how the third-party cookie going away could seriously mess up measurement if alternatives aren't put in place in time.
Something that's not being talked about enough is that attribution and measurement. So how are advertisers going to be able to track for ROI when a pixel and the capabilities of the pixel are going to be deprecated?
We really do have to figure out measurement. Right? Taking away the signal so it's harder to target is one thing, but if we can measure performance across that entire environment, it unlocks so much opportunity and value. And that's a hard one.
It's all hard. And the fact that things like post-cookie measurement and privacy sandbox support are still being sorted out only makes things harder because it kind of caps how much publishers can prepare for a fully post-cookie marketplace.
I think after 3 years of having this conversation, I think we've surely tried a lot of different things. Obviously, I'm thinking about contextual alignment like everybody else is, and so many different things that we're trying. I think it's going to be one of those things that we're going to be as ready as we can be, but ultimately we're going to have to sort of rip off the Band-Aid and see what works.
In some ways, I think we're so ready. In some ways, I think companies like mine, we were made for this moment. Context is our cookie. and being able to really connect advertisers to environments as opposed to third-party signals that may or may not have really been accurate is a really exciting moment in time that we've been ready for years. But on the other side of it, we need big technology to all align. We need to figure out when this is all happening and how, as an organization, we can continue to make sure that it's easy enough for advertisers to transact, to know what they're buying, and to be able to buy in a transparent and safe way.
In other words, what can publishers do to make sure that the death of the third-party cookie doesn't kill their ad businesses? Okay, kill's too strong a word. Maybe kneecap? Or maybe the cookie's demise could be a boon to publishers' ad businesses. The point is, publishers are still trying to get a handle on how much of an impact their ad businesses will feel, for better or worse, which was the centerpiece of the discussion during DPS's closed-door town hall sessions.
The reality is, if you don't have a plan for what will be the demise of third-party cookies, how are you going to figure out how to make up for that? The first step is figuring out how big of an impact you think it will be. People I've spoken to think it'll be anywhere between 25 and 35% deficit on current performance. If it all looks like Safari, that's moderately catastrophic, right? Obviously not good. The flip side is, if you can remonetize Safari with tactics that overpower cookies, the upside is you can actually bring premium back to premium publishing.
I need transparency and from the SSPs to come back to me to say, hey, you know what, the IDs and the attributes that you're passing are working and we're seeing it make some sense out to advertisers.
By now, you may have picked up on a trend across all the conversations with publishers about the cookie during DPS. What publishers seem to want most at the moment, okay, other than for Google to finally do the damn thing, is for the industry, the whole industry, to get in a room and hash out what the post-cookie landscape should look like.
It also opens the opportunity for an advertiser to have dialogues with publishers and saying, hey, why don't we try and figure out how to have measurement that's more fruitful than just a click or viewability on a publisher's site and then working with the advertiser directly. So hopefully there's more technology that comes from that to help with that lack of preparedness on the attribution and measurement side.
And it's very difficult to chase all of the different directions that different regulators are going in. And it would help so much if everyone could come together and try to make some group decisions about what does consent management mean for us as an industry? How do we embrace a privacy-forward, pro-consumer approach to all of this? How do we get the right technology in place that we can all use? So that's the place where we're looking for the most change.
The reality is tech partners, demand partners and publishers, if we all can sort of get in a room and knock it out, like at events like this, I do think, everyone can come to the table with learnings and action items instead of people sort of operating in silos and then sort of having the pipes not jive.